A man walked into a federal building, sat across from an FBI agent, and spent the next hour calmly describing how he had spent years committing crimes so sophisticated that the government eventually hired him to stop others from doing the same. No gun, no mask, just a mind that treated the entire world like a system to be hacked. Criminal masterminds don't look like criminals. That's precisely the point. The most dangerous ones in history weren't violent. They were patient, methodical, and terrifyingly intelligent. And by the time anyone figured out what was happening, the damage was already done. Stay until the end, because one of these men pulled off a con so audacious, so perfectly constructed, that even after being caught, no one could fully explain how he did it. Let's start with Frank Abagnale Jr. In the 1960s, before turning 21 years old, Abagnale successfully posed as a Pan Am airline pilot, a Georgia doctor, and a Louisiana attorney. He cashed over $2.5 million in fraudulent checks across 26 countries. He didn't hack systems. He hacked people. Dressed in a uniform carrying the right briefcase, speaking with quiet authority, he understood something fundamental about human psychology. People believe what they see before they question what they know. Abagnale walked through airports, hospitals, and courtrooms, not because the security was weak, but because confidence, delivered with precision, is its own kind of armor. The FBI chased him across 12 countries over 5 years. When they finally caught him, they were so impressed they eventually recruited him as a fraud consultant. His mind wasn't a weapon pointed outward. It was a mirror pointed at all of us. Then there is Victor Lustig, a man who sold the Eiffel Tower. Twice. Lustig was a Czechoslovakian con artist operating in 1920s Paris when he gathered a group of scrap metal dealers, posed as a government official, and convinced them the iconic tower was being sold for demolition. One dealer paid. Lustig fled to America. Then, with breathtaking nerve, he went back to Paris and tried to sell the tower again. Lustig's genius wasn't just deception, it was theater. He studied the room, adjusted his performance, and targeted greed with surgical precision. He understood that the wealthiest, most cautious men are still vulnerable when they believe they're about to win. He was eventually arrested for counterfeiting U.S. currency, but even then he escaped from prison and vanished for weeks before being recaptured. He died behind bars, but no vault, no border, no institution ever felt completely secure when Victor Lustig was breathing. Now hold that thought. Because one man on this list didn't deceive for money or glory. His motive was something darker, more calculated, and in many ways more disturbing. We'll get to him shortly. D.B. Cooper is the ghost the FBI still hasn't caught. In November 1971, a man using the name Dan Cooper boarded a Northwest Orient flight, handed a flight attendant a note claiming he had a bomb, extorted $200,000 in ransom, and then parachuted out of a commercial aircraft somewhere over the Pacific Northwest and disappeared forever. No confirmed body, no confirmed identity, only a partial bundle of ransom bills found along a riverbank 9 years later. The case remains the only unsolved hijacking in American aviation history. What makes Cooper extraordinary isn't just the act, it's the planning. He chose a specific aircraft model because he understood its rear air stair could be lowered mid-flight. He picked a route over dense, remote wilderness. He negotiated calmly, made no threats beyond what was necessary, and operated with the kind of cold precision that suggested serious prior knowledge of aviation and geography. Whoever D.B. Cooper really was, he walked into that plane as a ghost and walked off as a legend. Robert Hanssen lived a double life so quietly, so perfectly sealed, that even the people who hunted spies for a living didn't see it coming. For 22 years, Hanssen was a senior FBI counterintelligence agent, the man tasked with catching Soviet spies. And the entire time he was one. Hanssen passed classified intelligence to Russian and Soviet agencies from 1979 until his arrest in 2001, revealing the identities of Russian double agents working for the U.S., several of whom were executed. He received more than $1.4 million in cash and diamonds. The terrifying detail? He was never caught by clever investigation. He was caught because the FBI purchased his KGB file. Hanssen had spent 2 decades sitting inside the machine, designed to stop people exactly like him, and he used that access to stay invisible. He once told investigators he felt the FBI was too arrogant to consider that someone like him could exist within their own ranks. He was right. For 22 years he was right. And now, the man we promised, the one whose motive wasn't money. Theodore Kaczynski, known as the Unabomber, held a mathematics PhD from the University of Michigan and became one of Harvard's youngest faculty members. He later retreated to a remote Montana cabin, living without electricity or running water, and over 17 years constructed and mailed increasingly sophisticated explosive devices targeting universities and airlines. What made him one of the most hunted criminals in American history wasn't the bombs alone. It was the manifesto, a 35,000-word document dissecting modern industrial society with chilling coherence. The FBI, despite deploying hundreds of agents over nearly 2 decades, couldn't find him through investigation. He was identified only when his brother recognized the writing. Kaczynski's intelligence wasn't just technical, it was philosophical, obsessive, and terrifyingly patient. He waited, he planned. He believed so deeply in his own logic that he functioned entirely outside the moral architecture the rest of society operates within. Here is the thread that connects all of them. Frank Abagnale exploited trust. Victor Lustig exploited greed. D.B. Cooper exploited infrastructure. Robert Hanssen exploited institutional arrogance. And Ted Kaczynski exploited the assumption that intelligence is inherently civilizing. Each of these men looked at the systems meant to contain human behavior, legal systems, security systems, psychological defaults, and found the precise gap where those systems were blind. That's what separates criminal masterminds from ordinary criminals. It isn't recklessness, it's patience. It's the willingness to study something longer than anyone else is willing to study it, and then to act at exactly the right moment. The most chilling truth in all of these stories isn't what these men did. It's how long they did it without anyone knowing. Years, decades, walking freely among ordinary people, moving through airports and courtrooms and government buildings, carrying their secrets like luggage. Every system has a gap. Every institution has an assumption it never questions. These men found those gaps and lived inside them, some for fortune, some for ideology, and one who simply vanished into the clouds and was never seen again. The most intelligent criminal masterminds in history didn't beat the system with force. They beat it by understanding it better than the people who built it.
Welcome to Crime Reveals.